this is Brooke at Star Oracles talking today about Mars retrograde. Something I've wanted to talk about for a while now. So when it comes to retrogrades in general, I tend not to consider them particularly significant astrological events. But to me, Mars and Venus retrograde definitely feel different. And I think the reason for that is because they're a lot less common. Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, and the outer planets Uranus and Neptune, they're all retrograding every year, and usually for more than a quarter of it. Saturn retrogrades 4.5 months out of the year, Jupiter 4 months, Mercury 3 to 4 times. So when those planets are moving, we really get to feel them kind of like grinding in the signs that they're in. Not so much Mercury until Mercury's retrograding, but because he does it so often, we usually do end up feeling him in different areas of our chart for a long period of time. But when it comes to Mars and Venus, them being some of the faster moving planets, we really don't feel them grinding in a certain area of life, a house that they're occupying, until we get to those points where they're retrograde. By the time we feel this transit, we may not have had Mars retrograding in a particular house for many, many, many years. It could be something that only happens a few times in your lifetime. So, and it's kind of interesting that, Mars's archetype, who is a planet of action and movement and getting stuff done, is the one who retrogrades the least. It's the one who is maybe the most reluctant to stop and to start, moving backwards. Of course, none of them actually stop or move backwards. That's just what appears to be happening, but you get the idea. So, leading up to a Mars retrograde always has this tendency to feel like a flurry of activity. It can feel like there's just been a lot going on. And so Mars went into retrograde December 6th. So this was now over 10 days ago, 12 days ago. And so the weeks leading up to that were very busy. And usually there is some type of big thing accomplished leading up to the Mars retrograde. And it's not that the work stops, but it's more like we've now reached a new leg of work. But burnout and just feeling the stress, because Mars is your stress response, it is your adrenals. So those things can, feel like potentially at the point of collapse. But just like you're really feeling that. Everyone's going to be experiencing this retrograde in a different way depending on how Mars is interacting in your birth chart. You might have Mars interacting with a planet, like transiting on top of a planet in your natal birth chart, or casting a strong aspect. And of course, the house Mars falls in is going to be different for everyone. And also, if Mars rules your ascendant, if Mars rules your sun or moon, that's different too. So whenever a planet retrogrades, if that planet is your ascendant lord, you're going to feel that retrograde more than other people. But one thing that we're all experiencing together is a sign that Mars is retrograding in. So the retrograde is starting in the sign of Leo, but most of this retrograde is going to be felt in the sign of Cancer. And Mars is debilitated in the sign of Cancer. And that's because, think of what Cancer represents, which is home and family and mother, but just as an energy in general, it's the things that make us feel safe and secure, and it's where we go for safety and security. And Mars That's the place. Home is where we don't want to have to fight or, resolve conflicts and apply a lot of effort. We want to relax at home. And due to the emotional nature of Cancer, even though our emotions are valid, at the end of the day, it's not those emotions that solve a problem for us. And when Mars, who is meant to be used as a logical problem solver, is put into emotional situations, when we have emotions and we have problems that cannot be solved effectively, then we get conflict. So this Mars retrograde in particular can cause some conflicts, but it's a definite theme is going to be feeling like the problems that arise are going to feel more threatening to your sense of security. And it could be, related to some of those more concrete things like home and family. But more specifically, it's just going to depend on what Mars is looking at in your chart during this retrograde. Something else that's happening right now that's unique is Saturn's not casting any aspect to Mars during this retrograde, which is good. It should make Mars less frustrated and better able to do what needs to be done. But Mars is casting a really strong aspect to Saturn. So Saturn represents the problems that can't be fixed. It's more the problems that just have to be accepted because the thing is inherently broken or damaged or something's just, wrong with it. So when Mars looks at Saturn, Mars has a tendency to want to fix things that really cannot be fixed, and it makes it harder to let go of things. So I think also as like a sub-theme of this retrograde is struggling to let go of something that has been a long-standing source of security for you. And also, and this can be a business, it can be literal physical things in your home. I know some people who have had personal businesses that are really close to their heart, and they are having kind of like saying, is this, they're giving it one last big push, or they're really trying to figure out like, can I keep this, or do I really have to get rid of it type of situation. But, it can be relationships. It can be, like I said, things in your home. Maybe you're moving and you're having a hard time getting rid of things, or the home, had been that secure, safe place for you with a lot of emotional, attachments to it. Another thing that's happening is that there's Mars and Venus are in opposition. So something that can really be on your mind is how much effort you're putting into something versus the rejuvenation or what you're receiving from it. Basically, your activity versus perhaps receptivity, or just the good rejuvenating fulfillment that comes out of those actions. You could really be weighing that right now and seeing if what you're putting out is giving a return. Leading up to this video, like a few days ago, I was having a lot of thoughts about how right now it seemed like that my actions weren't enough. Like it just seemed like no matter what I did, it was like just not enough. And this can be towards a specific project. This can just be like for life in general. But just a feeling that there's so much to do that as much as you do, you can't see the pile of work getting smaller type of thing. And then so I was having those thoughts, tying it into this retrograde, and then yesterday I had this outcome. I found out this news that something I had been putting a lot of effort in, mentally and otherwise, was just gone. Like, it wasn't a thing anymore. It just went poof, like, too bad. And not only did it kind of like strengthen this interpretation I have of like your efforts just not seeming like enough right now, it was also like it kind of like triggered a lot of things in me that were more emotional than I think it would have been otherwise. And yeah, like I really felt this sense of security being pulled out from under me. But I also had Moon transiting my 8th house when when that happened, as is often the case when we find out bad news. Moon transiting your 8th or your 12th. And but yeah, so I don't know, just want to throw that in there. Mars has a way of severing us from things. So and all the other pieces have to be there too. But Mars is really the one that will kind of like click it into place when it's time for something to be done, be cut from your life, or whatever you want to call it. So when Mars is retrograding, when we have Mars really looking at that house opposite from it, or the house it's transiting itself, that's just a longer period of time for things to just, if it needs to be cut out, or if there's a lot of action that needs to happen there, then this is when it happens. And yeah, I'm just thinking about the 2016 Mars retrograde. If you want a personal example, I had Mars transiting my ascendant and 12th house. I think most of it was in my 12th house, and the 12th house is, among other things, it's sleep and where you go to feel restored. It's the opposite of the 6th house of like work and stress and all that. And this was when my daughter was really colicky. It was like at the peak of her colic where I wasn't getting any sleep. My nerves were shot. So Mars was in my house of sleep, retrograding, and really just jacking stuff up, like really messing up my sleep, taking me away from my sleep, causing a lot of stress, and then on my physical body as well, because that affects your body. And so yeah, I would love to give the definition of Mars transiting in every house, or retrograding through every house, in the video, but I find that tends to become tedious and people just want what's relevant to them. So I will make an article and link it here so that you can just go find your paragraph, read it, and then be done. If you're also wondering, like, where is Mars right now? Maybe you know your birth chart, but you don't know where Mars is right now. You can go to startransits.com and you can be tracking Mars over the next few months while Mars retrogrades. This retrograde is going to go into February, so it's going to be the next few months. So to summarize, basically the overriding feeling is that the efforts can seem like it's not enough. The problems happening right now are of a more emotional nature that threaten your sense of security. You can be feeling burnout, and there is potential to put more discipline, more effort, more energy into the things that Mars is aspecting. So that's the positive of this retrograde, is that Mars gets a longer time to spend in each house, for better and worse. and, conflict resolution, using more emotions or more emotionally intelligent way, hopefully, of resolving conflicts, and also listening to your heart, Cancer, when applying your actions towards things. So, Mars in Cancer. Okay, I think that about covers it. Until next time.